Okay, so when we last left off our saga, just to recap, we left off The Force Awakens. So you can stop the preview there. When we left The Force Awakens, Rey had randomly been amazing at everything. She was the ultimate Mary Sue in science fiction literature. She literally came out of nowhere and was incredible with a lightsaber, such that Kylo Ren, who's supposed to be a guy trained in his youth about the Force, trained in using a lightsaber, gets defeated by her in a lightsaber battle the first time she has literally ever picked up a lightsaber, which is stupid. Okay, and then they defeated the Star Killer base, which was the new Death Star, because every other movie we have to have a new Death Star, because no one ever has a practical new idea in the Star Wars universe, apparently. Okay, and so we start off this movie, and basically it's as though The Force Awakens never happened, essentially. The First Order is still extraordinarily powerful, right? This is the new Empire. They're still extraordinarily powerful. It didn't matter to them at all that their Death Star got blown up. Nothing matters. And the Rebel Alliance is on the run, so it's like Return of the Jedi, and it's like the entire Star Wars series never happened, right? The Empire was never defeated. We're basically starting from the exact same point we started in Episode 4, where the Empire is in control, and literally, it is the beginning of Star Wars Episode 4, right? I mean, the Empire ship is chasing, the First Order ship is chasing this transport vessel. Right? It's literally the beginning of Episode 4. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of my minor problems with this, and then I will go through some of my major problems. So I'll go through my bad things about this movie, and then my good things about this movie. So, again, the first bad thing is The Force Awakens apparently never happened. Now, I'd be fine with that. I didn't like The Force Awakens. I thought that it was a cheesy recasting. My biggest problem with the entire series is what they can't decide in Star Wars land whether they want it to benefit from nostalgia, whether they want to make it a nostalgia-centric series, or they want to launch something new. And so they decided to do both. And what they ended up doing in the process was killing all of the old things in preparation for the new. And that's nasty to my childhood, okay? I come for the nostalgia. Because I thought that the first, the new episodes that George Lucas made were terrible. The stuff I like is Episode 4, 5, 6, right? The stuff that everybody likes is New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Couldn't care less about Phantom Menace or Revenge of the Sith or any of that crap. Okay, 4, 5, and 6 are where it's at. So, I grew up with Han Solo. I grew up with Luke Skywalker. I grew up with Princess Leia. In fact, one of my sister's middle names is Leia because I was such a big Star Wars fan, because my parents asked me what I thought her middle name should be, and I picked Leia because I was a big Star Wars fan. Okay, so I am a huge Star Wars nut. In the last movie, they killed off Han Solo for no reason. They turned Han Solo, who is one of the coolest, most roguish figures who becomes honorable in film lore. They turn him into a loser single dad who can't hold his crap together and gets killed by his whiny brat son for no reason at all. I remember leaving the theater from The Force Awakens and thinking, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then the more I thought about it, the more it made me want to tear my own teeth out. It was just, so, if The Force Awakens had never really happened, I'd be a much happier camper. Also, Han would be alive, which would be a lot better. Okay, so it starts with that. Then The Force Awakens, again, ends with the idea that the First Order might finally be on the run a little bit. They are not at all. So, okay, number 2. These are minor problems, but there are some, basic kind of whole plot holes. It starts off with these bombers, right? These bombers that bomb a dreadnought. And the bombers, apparently, gravity applies in space, which is weird. Like, they actually just drop bombs onto the dreadnought in space. So unless there's an actual gravitational field, which I assume would be pulling the bombers toward the dreadnought, which they're not, I don't understand how the bombs fall down onto the dreadnought. It doesn't make any sense to me. That is one problem. That problem is also accompanied by another problem that is a logistical one. Near the end of the film, one of the good people, Laura Dern, in a bizarre turn, decides that she is going to run a transport vessel through a Star Destroyer using light speed. It's a cool image. Why has no one ever thought of this in the history of Star Wars? Especially because if you recall in Return of the Jedi, there is an actual scene where a Star Destroyer goes down because someone does a kamikaze run, right, on the Star Destroyer. Remember this? In Return of the Jedi? One of the ships kind of flies out of control, boom, goes right through the control tower. And down goes the entire Star Destroyer. Why has no one ever thought to use light speed as a weapon? You could just get rid of the entire first scene. Or, if they knew that light speed was usable as a weapon, why would they sacrifice a couple of medical ships, right? There's a point earlier in the film where a couple of ships they basically run out of gas and they're blown apart by the First Order. If they know they have this tactic available, why not just turn one of those ships around and run it with light speed right through the Star Destroyer? Like, this is the ultimate weapon in the universe. You could take down the Death Star this way. But apparently this has never occurred to anyone until Laura Dern and her purple hair. Okay, another problem. Snoke. Okay, so they make Snoke out to be the big baddie in The Force Awakens. And they make it, he's the big baddie, he's the scary guy, he's the new emperor. And he's so powerful in the Force that he can turn Kylo Ren from afar, right? He never even meets Kylo Ren, and he turns Kylo Ren away from Luke. That's how powerful he is. And in this film, they showed that he's super powerful because Rey is super powerful in the Force, and he's like throwing her around like nothing, right? He just stops her from doing anything, right? He's super duper powerful. You never find out who he is. You never find out what motivates him. You never find out where he came from. And he gets killed like that, right? He gets killed as like literally a hot knife going through butter. Right? He literally gets killed with a little trick by Kylo Ren that is so cheesy and silly that it makes very little sense. It makes sense in Return of the Jedi, right? They have an exact Return of the Jedi scene where you have the good guy and the bad guy and they're both in front of the Emperor. Now in Return of the Jedi it makes sense. The Emperor says to Luke, take up your lightsaber, strike me down, you'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Luke does it and Darth Vader stops him, right? That's cool and it's dramatic. Here, Kylo Ren basically just activates it with his mind. Somebody quipped, if only they had lightsaber trigger control, this never would have happened. If only the NRA had not stumped for no gun locks on the lightsabers, then Snoke would still be alive. But the big problem is, of course, you can't build up a big baddie like that and then not tell us who he is or why he's there. Fourth problem, Kylo Ren, who is now the only interesting character left in the Star Wars universe because they've killed everyone, is not intimidating. This is not a problem with this film. This is a problem with The Force Awakens. In The Force Awakens, remember, it takes Darth Vader 3 films, to lose a battle or to be convertible to the light side. It takes him 3 films. The first thing you see of Darth Vader is him literally blowing open a door and strangling somebody, picking him up off the ground and strangling him. Then he dispatches Luke, the most powerful Jedi in history. He dispatches Luke by chopping off his hand and beating the crap out of him in Empire Strikes Back. Right? And he's basically beating Luke in Return of the Jedi until Luke basically taps into the dark side of the Force. So it takes him 3 movies to get there. Kylo Ren, in the first 5 minutes of The Force Awakens, we find out, is conflicted, and then it turns out he can be bested by Rey, the ultimate Mary Sue, which means he's not scary. If you're going to have someone scary heading up the First Order, that person can't be defeatable by a girl who just picked up a lightsaber for the first time ever. Now, if you want to say the girl trained in it, fine, but she didn't train in it. She just picked it up and she's fantastic at it. Why exactly at this point in the film, at this point in the series, why should the Rebel Alliance be worried? Like, I don't know where they go for Episode 9. Why should they be worried? Rey is significantly more powerful than Kylo. We know this. We've seen it. So where's the competition now? No clue. Right? And General Hux is not exactly terrifying. Like, General Hux is not the Emperor. Okay, another problem. Rey's backstory is terrible. Now, I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to make up for the fact that this movie, I feel bad for Rian Johnson, the director and the writer, because I feel like he was trying to make up for flaws in the other movies. So, in this movie with Rey, they were basically trying to cure one of the problems that was created by George Lucas with his stupid-ass midichlorians nonsense. Right? So George Lucas had this whole thing about the Force runs in your bloodline, and this is how we know that you're powerful with the Force, and all this kind of stuff. It was always dumb. Well, the problem here is that they made a big deal out of the last movie. Who is Rey? Where did she come from? And it seems like for some reason she knows Han. Right? There's this weird kind of relationship. You remember this, Austin? It seems like she knows Han in The Force Awakens. It seems like everybody sort of knows who she is. But then it turns out that she's just some girl from middle of nowhere, which would have been fine, except you built it up like there was something interesting about her background. So you picked literally the least interesting background for her that you could find. And I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to make it that everyone can be participants in the Force. We're trying to get out of Plato's Republic, where there are gradations of human, and into the democratic society where everyone can be a Jedi. I get it. But it's not dramatic in any real way. Okay, another problem. I didn't need that entire scene of Luke, like, milking a sea cow. That was just weird. Like, it was just weird and gross, and I wasn't big on that. But a bigger problem with Luke is that Luke happens to be an incredibly crappy teacher. So, Luke actually is making a good point. The Jedi do suck at everything, okay? The Jedi were involved in the original creation of the Empire. The Jedi did fail to stop the Sith. They basically emboldened the Sith. The Jedi were not particularly successful at maintaining the Republic, so they stunk at everything. So Luke is right about this, but he's also a bad teacher, right? Rey comes and he says, I'm going to offer you 3 lessons. The first lesson is the Force exists. The second lesson is feel this rock. And there is no third lesson, right? Not a good teacher. That guy gets a bad review on collegeprofessors.com. Okay, and also Yoda showing up. I wasn't big on. Okay, another problem, celebrity cameos, as I mentioned before. Laura Dern with purple hair, no. And Benicio del Toro, my God, man. Okay, which brings us to that entire storyline. No, that entire storyline, no. Okay? That's an entire stupid storyline. Laura Dern's character could have just told Poe Dameron, guess what? We're going to send a bunch of transports to this random planet. Could they not have just done that? Instead, she pretends like she doesn't, like she has no plan, it's kind of evil, and then what happens is that Poe comes up with some stupid plan to go to like intergalactic Monte Carlo with weird creatures that looks like it's from Harry Potter, and there are weird dog rabbits that run around, camel horses that run around. Also, we can get a bunch of social justice warrior crap about income inequality and animal rights. There was a line in this movie so bad that I legitimately was thinking about walking out of the theater. And there's a line in this movie where after Finn, who is useless, right? He is useless. And Rose, who is double useless. They go to this stupid planet, and then they free the animals who have been abused. Oh, this is how we know the rebels are good guys, because they don't like animals being abused, right? Okay, great. Okay, this is a far cry, by the way, from Empire Strikes Back, where Han literally cuts open the belly of a what is it? Of a tauntaun, thank you, and stuffs Luke inside of it, right? But now we have to make sure that all of the rights of the animals are upheld, because this is deeply important. Listen, I'm for animal rights, but what does Star Wars have to do with animal rights? Like, what the hell? And Finn turns to Rose and he says, well, I guess it was worth it. You mean losing the entire galaxy was worth you going there to free a few camel horses that will be recaptured 5 seconds from now? Was that the thing that was worth it? And then, the worst line in the film, Rose turns to him, she takes a saddle off the camel horse dog, and she goes, now it's worth it. What? No, it's not. Like, it's not. Like, your whole job here is to get this hacker guy so you can go back to fake Death Star and hack the program. No. Also, they should have killed Finn. Okay, when Finn is riding at the end directly toward that giant blaster weapon, toward the battering ram, he should have just died. Okay, they should have killed him at the end of Force Awakens to add some gravitas. This is my biggest problem. They will not kill any of the new characters because they're trying to preserve the new characters. Instead, they kill all of the old cool characters who I actually like. I don't like Finn. He's boring. I don't care about Rose. She's boring. Rey is only not boring because she has interactions with Kylo Ren. Okay, everyone is boring in the new scenario, and they're killing off all of the cool characters who made this thing into a legacy in the first place. Which brings me to Rose. Don't even get me started. No. Okay, fine. Okay, Captain Phasma also. Like, was she supposed to be a thing? Like, because she wasn't a thing.
No.
Okay, Captain Phasma was like, she's there for 5 seconds. She's dressed up as it's Brienne of Tarth dressed as Boba Fett. She's supposed to be so cool. Finn, the janitor, takes her out. Fail. Okay, and a few more criticism, then I'll get to the good stuff, okay? So, one other criticism about Luke. The best moment in the movie, aside from the Kylo Ren, the Kylo Ren Rey team up, which is the best part of the movie. Aside from that, the best moment of the movie is the part where Luke strides out of the cave, and Kylo Ren has every AT-AT fire on him, and then Luke just walks right out of it, right? Super cool. They then destroy the coolness of this moment by having it be basically a hologram, right? He was using astral projection because he's still back at Stupid Planet. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? The entire coolness of it is that he's actually there stopping the blasters. It's not cool if they're just shooting a hologram, because holograms can't be damaged. We all know that. Why would you do that? So in one case, we know, so the Force is used in 2 ways in this film that we've never seen it used before, and we'll never see it used again. One, it apparently protects you from space death. So Princess Leia gets blown out into space. She's never used the Force at all that we've seen, except for one time when she used her mind to reach out to Luke's mind at the end of Empire. And now she can suddenly rescue herself from space and fly, which is a cool thing, I guess. Like, I didn't know this was a thing. Also, if that were a thing, why wouldn't the Emperor use it at the Empire at the end of Return of the Jedi? Right? Darth Vader literally takes the Emperor and throws him down a wormhole, essentially. He throws him down the shaft, the mine shaft, right? Why wouldn't, if he can float, why wouldn't he just float? I'm so confused by this. Okay, so that is one Force thing that we didn't know about. A second Force thing we didn't know about is this astral projection nonsense. It's so much cooler if Luke is actually there. And there's precedent for it, right? You could actually build that in. Because in Empire, you recall, there's a point where Han Solo is invited by Lando to dine with Darth Vader, and he takes out his blaster, and he shoots Darth Vader, and Darth Vader goes like this, and stops the blaster. You remember this? So Luke is significantly more powerful than Darth. How much more powerful? Well, we would find out if they were actually there, and he stopped a bunch of AT-AT barrage. Right? That would be amazing.
Kylo does it in Force Awakens.
That's true. Kylo does do that in Force Awakens. Kylo does stop a blaster in Force Awakens. That's correct. He stops it in the air, right?
Yeah.
Then he stopped it. So Kylo can do it, but Luke has to be a hologram? Why? Okay. Finally, this is the biggest problem. Kylo should have sided with Rey. Okay, if you're going to do something new, you cannot just redo the original trilogy by having Kylo be Darth Vader. He's just like Anakin. He was conflicted, and now he's bad, and Rey is always good, and blah, blah, blah. You can't do that. They were building up for this too, right? Like, there's a point where Luke explicitly says that Rey does not resist the dark side. And there's a point where he says that. And you think, okay, well, maybe the dark side and the light side are actually one force, right? There's this theory in the Star Wars universe. And then there's that great moment where Kylo and Rey team up. And you think this is changing the entire nature of the Star Wars universe, right? You've never seen this before. The only team up you've ever seen is when Darth Vader makes a final decision right before he dies to toss the Emperor down the mine shaft. That's the only time you've seen this in the Star Wars universe. And it's super cool, right? When I was in the theater, it's packed theater on Saturday night, and the audience burst into applause, right? The audience started applauding. Everyone was blown away by that scene, right? It's a great scene. All the way up to and including the whole thing where Rey tosses him the lightsaber and he goes, doom, and activates it right through the guy's face. Right? That whole scene is great. And then you immediately blow it. Because there's no real motivation for Kylo to say, let the transports all be wiped out still. There's no motivation there. Who cares? 5 seconds before this, he refused to fire on his mother. 5 seconds. Right? He's not the one who blew Princess Leia out into space. He refused to do it. So why does he want to kill her now? Now he wants to kill her? It doesn't make any sense. So that's all the criticism. Here's what's right with the film. Number one, it is better than The Force Awakens. Okay? The Force Awakens, for me, was just a disaster all the way through. The reason being that, again, they took Han Solo and made him uncool. Luke doesn't end up uncool in this thing. Luke is cool. I just think that his death is a little wasted. Second, the Kylo-Rey connection really works. This was something I didn't expect going into the film. I thought, Kylo, Rey. But the Kylo-Rey connection, they actually have some chemistry on screen. And every scene where they're basically Skyping in to each other, all those scenes really work. And the scene in the throne room really works. The scene where they're working together. That's the coolest part. And that's why you don't want it to end. And that's why when it does end, you're annoyed. Because they just went back to same old, same old. Okay, that lightsaber battle also works, right? That lightsaber battle is that scene is one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars canon. Right? That one scene. I'm not saying the movie. I'm saying that one scene is one of the best things in all of Star Wars canon. Where Kylo turns and suddenly he and Rey are on the same side. It's really cathartic and it's really cool. And finally, the final thing that works is Luke's final fade out works just because it's a throwback. Right? He actually gets a death that I guess is deserving. A lot better than Han, right? Han just gets stabbed through the belly and thrown down another one of these incessant mine shafts that seem to be everywhere in Star Wars universe. But Luke actually gets to do the final Tatooine two suns, right? Gazing off into the distance thing. And that works, and it's emotionally resonant. I just wish she weren't dead, because I think it was a wasted death. They should have ended the film probably after the Kylo Rey scene, and they should have made the entire final part of that movie the third movie. Right? That's probably what they should have done. Okay, so is it worth seeing? Well, if you've watched this far, you've already seen it, because you've heard all the spoilers. But my biggest problem now is that I actually think this is the end of the Star Wars universe. I think that this is actually I think that this is the end of where Star Wars can go. Because now, all the old characters are dead. We've reached the end of the Skywalker family, essentially. Like, Ben Solo is a thing, I guess, but Kylo is his own sort of character, and they're gonna kill Kylo in the next film for sure. So, why would I show up to watch a movie without Luke? Leia's dead, right? In real life, Carrie Fisher's dead. Han is dead. Where are they gonna go from here that's not just gonna be more typical light side versus dark side stuff? They were on the verge of doing something so great. This is what annoys me. They were so close to doing something unprecedented, right? Let's say that Kylo says, you know what, you're right, and he calls off the attack, and he says to Rey, we're going to rule the galaxy together, and that's the end of the film. And you don't know what's going to happen. How's Leia going to respond to this? How Luke's going to respond to this? Especially since Kylo, as you recall, just killed Han. Right? Wouldn't that, where would it go? It sets up all these possibilities. Instead, we're thrust back into sort of this binary universe where, okay, I guess Poe Dameron is going to take over for Carrie Fisher as the head of the rebellion, and Rey is going to be the new Luke, and Kylo is going to be the new Darth, and So I guess this sort of ends the canon. But it did have some moments. Okay, so there is my full take. I think that's a pretty fulsome take on Star Wars. If you have thoughts on that, you're always free to email me or tweet me and tell me that I am wrong. But we will be back here tomorrow. The Republicans are set to vote on taxes tomorrow. So that will be interesting. We'll give you all the details. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.